Well, we're back on the farm. We're in the middle of our Cultivate series, and we are in the middle of a segment where we are getting to know our music team better. Jozs, we get to hang out with you today, hear a bit of your story. You have been on staff at Trinity for how long?
Since November 2020.
Okay, so just a few months here. You are our pastor of music and innovation. We get to work together quite a bit, and you build systems in the background for our church, our whole church, and you're also our music director. So people see the effects of what you do on a weekly basis, whether they realize it or not. Jozs, that is what you do. We want to know more about who you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from?
Born and raised in the Netherlands. I grew up in a town called Barendregt. Barendregt. Yeah, it's a hard one. It's close to Rotterdam. Maybe that helps.
No.
Okay.
No.
I moved to England for a year when I was 18 years old. That's where I did a music school, and I lived in Redding, California for 2 years.
Yep.
That's where I met my wife, and that's the reason why I'm here. She's from here, and we got married in May 2016, and we stuck around.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you have been around the world. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up doing what you're doing now.
I grew up in a family of music lovers. They're not musicians, but we didn't have a TV at the time. So as a kid, I just grew up around a lot of music, and the couch became my drum kit.
Yes.
I had 2 balloon sticks as my drumsticks.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I watched this video of Delirious and Stu G, the guitar player. He just became my hero.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted to be as cool as him, so I picked up the guitar.
We all. Yeah.
You love Delirious.
I did. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I was 9 years old, I bought my first guitar, and 12 years old, I bought my first electric guitar, joined a youth band, and people in that band taught me a lot about guitar playing in a band, and was so interested in music that I went to England then, and then got my music degree there. Just wanted to invest in my craft, and the school in England is called Nexus.
Okay.
Learned a lot about theory, techniques, just performing overall. And during that school year, I realized actually I'm not really like the performer type. I love playing in a Christian context, and that's where Delirious was such an example for me.
Okay, so it's evident that in all of your world gallivanting, even up to this point, you've experienced many different forms of musical worship. And so talk to us about how that played out at Nexus. It was Christian school, right?
Yeah, it's Christian school.
And how that played out there?
It was great. I love the true, authentic kind of worship that we had there in the school. And the tutors who were teaching us about our crafts, they were so talented and so skilled. They could just play Eddie Van Halen, no problem. And so, but there was a magic that happened when they played together, and especially in these times that we had worship, and they were the ones playing the worship teams. And so it was magical.
There's something that strikes on something that's so crucial for within a musical worship context, and it's that balance between musical ability on one hand, but then that sensitivity to knowing and sensing what the Spirit is doing in a particular moment on the other hand. That's our role as worship leaders, to facilitate that encounter between heaven and earth. And Jozs, I see that gift set in you, your ability to crush it on your guitar, yes, but also to sense those moments and to dive deep into those moments. And we've experienced that over the last number of months, even just since you've been on our team. And so how that was something that was stirring in you in England, and then you take another step across the pond. How did you hone that gift?
Well, thanks for that compliment. That's huge. But yeah, a couple of years later, I went to California, and kind of that what I'd learned in the spirit that we had at that school in England is where I kind of helped develop it in myself in Bethel Church. And they had the same spirit behind their music, and so the school allowed students to audition for the worship teams, and so I somehow made it on.
It was the balloon drumsticks, I think.
Yeah.
It had to be that.
Yeah, probably. You're
okay,
right. Yeah. Personally, though, it was a dream come true. Honestly, I love that place, and so be able to play there was just amazing. Those 2 years actually really marked my life in so many ways, and more than just music, as a person as well. And so I started dating my wife there as well. Just a little side note, and the idea of being able to work for a church was never really there when I was in Holland. Churches usually are too small, and so being in America and then maybe Canada later on at that point, I just started dreaming about what that could look like. And on a daily basis, what do you do? And like that's what I'm doing now. And so I pursued this worship role here, and
awesome,
loved it.
Awesome,
love it.
Okay, so to develop this series, this segment that we're doing right now, getting to know our music leaders, what we asked of our music leaders is tell us a little bit about your personal story and share with us a song that resonates with your story. The song that you chose is definitely not a middle of the road type song, to say the least, but it's a song that resonates with your story. So tell us a little bit about it.
It is one of those harder songs. It's a harder one to digest, maybe. But the more I think about it, and we'll play it in a little bit, the more I love it too. This is a very personal song for me. Besides that, I love the vibe, and I love the lyrics of the song.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little bit of background information, my name is Joshua, which is Joshua in English.
Some people call you Joz. Right?
Yeah, Jozs.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's good.
Joz would be better, but it's okay.
One or the other.
Yeah, I have many names here. But my parents gave me this name very intentionally, and they had this intention of I'm going to lead, my son is going to lead people into the promised land. And so for me, reading through Joshua and learning about his story, and the way he heard God's voice, and he's so open and honest about his struggles, and he's learning how to believe in himself and in the words that God gave him. It made him look so successful, and so to apply this to my own life, it's beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
No kidding. Yeah, there's something incredibly powerful in a name, isn't there? So the story of Joshua and then its interaction with your life, how have you seen that play out?
I've had so many moments in my life where I felt like I experienced God's presence, and I can recall those feelings and what he was saying. And sometimes it's just the feeling of him really embracing me. And it just reaches deep, it just goes to the core. Yeah. And so this song has these lyrics in the chorus, and it goes, "Offend my mind so I can know you more, and break my heart so it looks more like yours."
Offend my mind.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And I love these lyrics because, when I'm talking about God, experiencing God, it feels like a big hug. And he's a good father, and he empowers and he comforts and he speaks life into me just by giving a hug. And life after an encounter like that is just different, and things kind of shift and switch around, and priorities change. And life after such an encounter is different, and you see things different, and things kind of shift, priorities change. And the depth of an encounter like that can fade over time. And it has for me. It had for me. And then there is Romans 12, where it says, "Don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by the way you're thinking, and then you will learn to know God's will for you."
Yeah, when God gets a hold of us and we let God transform us into the people that he wants us to be, that's not an easy process. That can feel offensive as it plays out, just like the song says. And, you know, in all of that, as tough as it is, it's worth it in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I remember the beginning of second year in Bethel school. God just said this to me at one time. He's like, you're going to enter into a season of cultivating and stewarding. And it just kind of felt like from that moment on, God distanced himself a little bit from me. And it hurt a little bit. And I was struggling for a long time why he would do that. But Romans 12 is the thing that became so much more relevant. And for me, I just needed to renew my way of thinking and mostly about myself. For a long time, I kind of had these daily encounters with God, and I could really feel him, and then that kind of stopped. And it felt like he was kind of nudging me to not be led by emotions and feelings, but trust a bit more in his character and who he is. And that was just kind of what I needed that time in my life, and still. So in some ways, it was like he was offending me in the way I was thinking about myself. And as a Christian, and like I've been a Christian my whole life, and I knew I can list off the things that God says, but I didn't necessarily believe them. And so I've been in this process with God, and he's really taking me in this process of learning to believe the things that he's saying about me.
Wow. Yeah, that's a significant journey from hearing God's voice to allowing it actually make a difference in your life. Can you give us some examples of how you've seen that play out?
Yeah, of course. God says that he has the best plan for my life, that he is a provider, that he's got my back. You know, he adopts me in his family and calls me his son. I have everything in this world that I need. And then he just says like, hey, let's do this journey together. It's on this journey that I realize over and over again that his love is bigger than that and bigger than I can imagine. And whenever I feel like I have a grasp on the extension of God's love, he's like, my love is bigger than that. And then he'll show me. And it's this constant invitation really where God is asking me like, hey, let's do life together and get to know me better. And he's a good father. And sometimes even he sees something in me, I'm sure. And then he's like, hey, I'm kind of going to break your heart a little bit. I'm going to just change things a little bit so that it makes you soft again. And then we're going to reshape it, and it's going to look a little bit more like mine. And so to me, it's obvious that God cares so much about having this relationship with him. And I've also been on the other end, really, where I've literally thought, how am I different than a Pharisee? Jesus offends these guys all the time. And he's trying to show them that, you know, one, the law is really, really good, but two, there's more than that. Don't just stop there. You know, you should get to know the Father is what he always has been trying to say. And it's this difference between knowing about God and knowing God. And so that's really what it's like, or what it's for me.
Yeah, Jozs, I see you on this journey. And you live this out beautifully. Anyone who gets 10 seconds to have a conversation with you would see that you know God and that he's doing an incredible work in your life. And yet the lyrics of this song that we're going to play for everyone in just a second it still leaves some hanging thoughts and some tough questions. You and I both know that sometimes lyrics and artistry can sometimes make you feel uncomfortable, and this song, it goes there. But it's a wrestle in the soul that's worth exploring, because when our minds are challenged and we dive into that wrestling, often that's where we get to know him better.
That's really the essence of worship for me, why I love worship, because I get to partake in a moment with the Father and tell him about the things that I'm so thankful for, and the things that I love doing, the things that I struggle with. And then I'm also singing these declarations of faith and promises over myself. And strengthening myself in the Lord. And yeah, man, that's worship.
Yeah, and you know what, that sounds to me, it sounds like David in the Psalms, you know, with his lament and his joy in the tension of his struggles and the artistry and the poetic nature of the way that he communicates just the depths of his soul. Jozs, we see this play out in your story too, and so thank you for sharing with us. We so appreciate that. This song, we talked about recreating it as a band and us being the ones playing it, but we realized that by us doing it, we might not be able to do it justice. And so you reached out to the band. They gave us the thumbs up for us to play it back here. And so this here is Gable Price and Friends with the song Heretic.